Okay, that was really, really interesting. So I'm at Purdue to film some interviews, and we had a little bit of break, so I went to a restaurant quick to grab a bite to eat, answer some emails, maybe get some editing done. So I'm sitting in my booth, right, minding my own business, and I overhear a gal that's about my age, probably a little younger. She's a college student here at Purdue. And she starts the sentence off by saying, "Let me tell you about how I first became a vegan." So immediately my ears perk up, and she starts to describe a story about how she went to a restaurant as an 8-year-old and had lamb for the first time and realized that that piece of meat on her plate was the same thing as her stuffed animal lamb that she carried to bed every night. And from that moment on, she was either a vegan or a vegetarian. From then, as an 8-year-old, till now, as a sophomore in college. And she's chatting with this close friend about the environmental problems that meat has, and she specifically keeps calling out the beef industry. And as an advocate for the industry, working in it, and also as a beef producer myself, I just feel this feeling in my gut of, man, you have to speak up, you have to say something. Obviously, my internal blood is starting to boil at this point. This inside voice in my head just keeps telling me, like, you gotta go talk to her. You gotta go say something. Like, this is your responsibility as a beef producer, right? And just as I'm about to get up from my chair and go talk to her, I hear her say, like, to her friend, "Thank you for being so open-minded about this conversation. I often feel like I have to defend my point of view over and over." And that kind of like set me back for a moment because, again, I was fired up. I was ready to go have this conversation with her. And she thanks this friend of hers sitting across from her for being so understanding and open-minded. And I still have this little thing in my gut like, okay, a conversation needs to be had, but maybe not the one that you originally wanted to have. I throw my stuff away, stand up with my camera bag, and go up to their table. And I say, "Hi, I was sitting right behind you guys editing. I couldn't help but overhear some of your conversation. And honestly, like, I am just very curious, and it sounds like you're very passionate about this. Can you please tell me more about your decisions on becoming vegan?" I'm wearing Vans. I am dressed up, walking around Purdue's campus. So I don't know. I don't think she suspected a thing about me being involved in the ag industry. And so she like turns towards me, and here I'm expecting her to just like kind of give me the same story that she just told her friend, right? Like factory farming. And no, she actually takes a step back and says, "I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago." And she's like, "Actually, my grandpa still is on the farming operation that's been in our family for generations." That took me back. The next thing she says is, "Throughout this whole process of me learning that I wanted to become a vegan, what that means to me, now what it means to sit in a classroom and learn," I think her degree was like environmental engineering. She's like, "Throughout this whole process, one thing I've learned is it's not black and white. Not all animal agriculture is bad." She's straight up telling me this, guys. And I'm just sitting there. 2 seconds ago, I was ready to throw some hands and like support my beef industry. And here, this girl is sitting down, educating someone that's not involved in it. And she's telling me it's not so black and white. Not all animal agriculture is bad. My whole perspective changed. I suddenly like genuinely wanted to hear her perspective. I suddenly genuinely wanted to hear, what she's learning in these classes that's making her so passionate. And don't get me wrong, there was a lot of things we were not on the same page about. There are a lot of things that are being taught in some of these classes that are not correct, or not true. But I think the biggest thing I learned in this conversation is that we have so much more common ground. She truly has a heart for this earth just like we do as farmers and ranchers. I'm still like shaking from that conversation. It was so good. She shook my hand at the end of it, introduced herself. Wow. What do you guys think? How would you approach that situation? I think that was a win. Purdue, you've been great, you've been rainy, and you've been filled with surprises. On to the next one.